The Roman Empire at the height of its power was a land of immense wealth, political intrigue and unchecked ambition. Its military might and vast territories were the envy of the world, yet beneath the surface it was a kingdom riven with corruption, betrayal and internal strife. The Senate, once the beating heart of Roman governance, had become a theatre for power struggles and conspiracy, a place where the price of loyalty could mean death. Within this dangerous political labyrinth existed one of the most powerful women in Rome, a woman whose rise to power defied the odds and left an indelible mark on Roman history. Her name was Agrippina the Younger, and she was not just a powerful woman. She was a woman who carved her place in history with political cunning and a ruthlessness that shocked even the most hardened of Roman elites. Known for her intelligence, beauty and ambitious nature, she was, by all accounts, the epitome of Roman ambition. Agrippina was no stranger to the corridors of power, having seen firsthand the intrigues that led to the rise and fall of emperors. But despite her many achievements, her death remains one of the most shocking and controversial events in Roman history. Her murder, orchestrated by those she trusted, was a turning point in Roman politics. It left the empire in a state of turmoil and set the stage for even darker events to unfold. But how did such a powerful woman, who seemed invincible in her pursuit of power, end up a victim of her own ambitions? The answer lies in the brutal political dynamics of Rome, where power was not just held by those who ruled, it was a game of survival, where the strongest would reign and those who couldn't adapt would fall. Agrippina's death was a reflection of the dark undercurrents that ran through Rome's power structure, a symbol of the price that must be paid for betrayal and ambition. The murder of Rome's most powerful woman remains a subject of intrigue and mystery, not just because of its shocking nature, but because of the ripples it sent throughout the empire. Agrippina was a woman who bent Rome's political system to her will, but in the end it was the very system that devoured her. This is the story of how power, betrayal, and ambition led to the untimely death of one of Rome's most formidable women, a woman who thought she could control Rome, only to have Rome destroy her in return. Agrippina's path to power was not one paved with ease, but one fraught with hardship, political manoeuvring, and calculated ambition. Born into the prestigious Julii Claudius family, Agrippina was no stranger to the complexities of Roman imperial politics. She was the great-granddaughter of the Emperor Augustus, the daughter of Germanicus, and the sister of Caligula. From birth, Agrippina was destined for greatness, or, as the Romans would say, for power, with all its dangers and costs. Her father, Germanicus, was one of Rome's most beloved generals, a man who had the ear of the people and the favour of the Senate. But after his sudden death in 19 AD, Agrippina was thrust into a world of loss and power struggles. Her mother, Agrippina the Elder, was a formidable figure in her own right, determined to protect her children's interests and her family's place in the empire. Yet the deaths of both Germanicus and her mother set Agrippina on a perilous course, as her family's legacy seemed to be slowly undermined by a growing number of political enemies. Agrippina's sharp mind and ambition, however, would not be quelled. She married twice, first to Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus, and then to the Emperor Claudius, a move that would solidify her position in Roman politics. Through her marriage to Claudius, Agrippina gained the ultimate prize, the title of Empress. However, her journey to the throne was not merely about securing a place by her husband's side. It was about power, total and unyielding power. Agrippina, with her political acumen and shrewdness, began to orchestrate events behind the scenes, manoeuvring her son Nero into the line of succession. In her eyes, Rome could be hers if she played her cards right. But little did Agrippina know that her very quest for power would ultimately lead to her downfall. The political environment in Rome during Agrippina's rise to power was one of intrigue, volatility, and ruthless ambition. The reign of her uncle, Emperor Claudius, was marked by a series of political crises, personal rivalries, and the constant struggle for control within the imperial family. Claudius, while a capable ruler, was not without his weaknesses. His apparent naivety and reliance on those around him made him vulnerable to manipulation, particularly by those with the ambition to control the empire's vast power. Agrippina understood the inner workings of this political theatre better than most. She knew the importance of allegiances and the value of timing in securing power. Her first marriage to Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus brought her into the influential Ahenobarbus family, but it was her second marriage to Claudius that would truly catapult her into the heart of Roman politics. Through this marriage, Agrippina was able to secure her son, Nero, a position as the heir to the throne, despite the fact that Claudius already had a biological son, Britannicus, from his previous marriage. Agrippina's relationship with Claudius was initially one of calculated charm, using her influence to maneuver herself into a position where she could influence imperial decisions. She quickly established herself as a confidant of the emperor, ensuring that her interests, and those of her son, were always at the forefront of political discussions. But while Agrippina was at the helm of political manipulation, there were those within the imperial court who sought to undermine her power. The Senate, always wary of the growing influence of the imperial family, kept a watchful eye on Agrippina's actions. Claudius's freedmen and advisors, many of whom had benefited from Agrippina's favour, saw her as a rival, fearing her ability to consolidate power further. These tensions within the court came to a head as Agrippina, ever the opportunist, pushed her son, Nero, closer to the throne while simultaneously eroding Britannicus's chances. She knew that her family's claim to power could only be secured by removing those who stood in her way. Rome's political landscape during this time was a dangerous game of alliances, betrayals, and intrigue. Agrippina, with her sharp intellect and ambition, played this game better than most. Her success built on understanding the fragility of power and how quickly it could be taken away. But as history would show, even the most carefully constructed political landscape could be overturned in an instant. Agrippina's rise to power was as swift and deliberate as her eventual fall. Her ambition had always been her guiding force, but with her son, Nero, now firmly entrenched as the heir to the throne, she had secured the greatest prize in Rome. Yet, despite her significant influence, she was not immune to the very same political treachery that she had once so expertly navigated. Her ambition, which had propelled her to the top, also set the stage for her downfall. The very empire she had helped her son inherit was about to become the instrument of her destruction. The critical turning point came after Claudius's death in 54 AD. Nero ascended to the throne as the new emperor, but the true power behind the throne was still Agrippina. For the first few years, Agrippina retained a significant degree of influence, controlling many of the imperial decisions. However, it was clear that Nero, once an eager pupil under his mother's watchful eye, began to resent her constant interference in his rule. The young emperor was eager to establish his own authority and begin governing without the shadow of his mother looming over him. Agrippina's political dominance became an obstacle to Nero's ambitions. The relationship between mother and son began to deteriorate, and tensions between the two reached a breaking point. The public rift between them became evident to the court and the people of Rome, a power struggle that would ultimately culminate in Agrippina's tragic fate. Nero, no longer the obedient and impressionable young man he once was, sought to free himself from his mother's grasp. But her presence in the palace, her unwavering control over the empire, and her deep involvement in the daily affairs of government made it impossible for Nero to fully assert his autonomy. He knew that in order to truly rule, Agrippina had to be eliminated. Nero began plotting the death of his mother with a cold and calculating mind, understanding that her death would remove the final obstacle standing between him and total control of the empire. He took the first step in his plan by trying to manipulate her into a situation where her death would seem like an accident. The plot was to have Agrippina killed in a manner that would not raise suspicion. an attempt on her life that would have made it seem like a natural end to a woman of her age and influence. The first attempt on Agrippina's life came in 59 AD, when Nero ordered her to travel on a specially constructed boat that was rigged to sink. The plan was simple. Agrippina would drown in a boating accident, and Nero could claim innocence. But Agrippina, ever vigilant and aware of the threat on her life, managed to escape the sinking boat, swimming to safety despite being injured. She made her way back to the palace, alive and furious at the treachery of her son. Nero, however, was undeterred. His mother's survival only fueled his desire to rid himself of her permanently. In the wake of this failure, Nero resolved to take more direct action. He was now fully committed to eliminating Agrippina from the equation. His advisors, those who had once benefited from Agrippina's favour, rallied to his side, eager to see her removed. The second attempt on Agrippina's life was far more brutal and swift. With the help of his trusted inner circle, Nero ordered the execution of his mother. One night, Agrippina was summoned to a private audience with her son, under the pretense of discussing matters of state. Once inside her quarters, Agrippina was attacked. Nero's men, led by his close confidants, descended upon her. According to the ancient historian Tacitus, Agrippina tried to flee but was caught and struck down. Some accounts even suggest that she was killed by a blow to the head, while others indicate that she may have been smothered by a pillow. Regardless of the method, Agrippina was finally silenced. Her death marked the final step in Nero's consolidation of power and sealed his rise to absolute authority over the Roman Empire. The murder of Agrippina was a defining moment in Roman history, not just for its brutality, but also for the way it encapsulated the toxic, treacherous nature of power within the imperial family. Nero's rise to power had been built on his mother's ambition and cunning, but in the end, it was his need for independence and his willingness to do anything to achieve it that led to the most shocking and violent act of betrayal. The death of Agrippina, one of the most powerful women in Roman history, sent a chilling message. In the world of Roman politics, no one, not even a mother, was safe from the ruthless ambitions of an emperor. The death of Agrippina was an event that shook Rome to its core. Her brutal end marked the culmination of years of political manoeuvring, family betrayal, and a thirst for power that would leave a lasting impact on the Roman Empire. In the aftermath of her death, Rome was left to grapple with the power vacuum that her absence created. Nero, her son and the prime suspect in her murder, found himself in a precarious position. While he had achieved his long-desired goal of eliminating his mother, he now had to contend with the political fallout. Her death was widely known, and the rumours surrounding it were rampant. Some whispered that Nero had orchestrated the murder because Agrippina had become a threat to his rule, while others believed that he acted out of pure desire for control. Despite the efforts to suppress the truth, the memory of Agrippina's murder lingered in the air, clouding Nero's reign. Her death only served to solidify her status as a martyr in the eyes of many Romans. She had been a woman of immense power, someone who had wielded influence over the empire's political landscape for years. Her murder represented the depths of corruption and ambition within the imperial family. As time passed, Agrippina's name became synonymous with the dangers of absolute power. Though she was gone, the legacy of her political savvy and ruthless pursuit of power remained a shadow over Nero's reign. For many, the story of her death would be a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dark side of Rome's imperial politics. Her death not only marked the end of her immense influence over Nero, but also set the stage for his transformation from a seemingly capable ruler to a tyrant. In eliminating his mother, Nero sought to secure his power, but in doing so, he lost the stabilizing influence that Agrippina had provided. Her death, rather than solidifying his reign, marked the beginning of a period of reckless decision-making, paranoia, and violence. Agrippina's legacy, however, is far from defined solely by her death. She was a woman of remarkable ambition and political savvy, a mother who fought fiercely for her son's ascent to the throne. In a society dominated by male rulers, her rise to power and her ability to navigate the treacherous waters of imperial politics are a testament to her intelligence and determination. Though she ultimately fell victim to her son's ambition, her story is a reflection of the brutal and often dangerous world of ancient Rome, where power, loyalty and betrayal were intertwined in a constant struggle for survival. Her death, a result of personal betrayal and political necessity, serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of power, even for those who seem invincible. The consequences of Agrippina's murder reverberated throughout Rome, influencing Nero's reign and shaping the empire's future. Her story continues to captivate, reminding us of the perilous nature of political ambition and the cost of unchecked power.